as you can see, we're here at the Storehouse. It's standing room only. Well, it literally is. It's standing room only. They're all getting ready to go on the stage. Let's just hope we can hear a decent sound system. So, you know, let's see what's going to happen. Can't hear you. Where's the music coming from?
For coming. As I say, there are still plenty of seats if you want to come and grab them, but we will kick off. So my name's Matt Walker, I'm your local Member of Parliament. I'm here today with Councillor Tony Tye, who many of you will know already, Mayor of Skegness, Superintendent Pat Coates from Lincolnshire Police, and Craig Lane, who is the leader of East Lindsey District Council. Now, we all know why we are here. I know how concerned many of you are about the presence of asylum seekers using hotels in Skegness. And tonight, what I'm going to try and do is answer as many of your questions as I possibly can with the gentleman behind me. And I'm going to try and do that as honestly, as straightforwardly as I possibly can. But I want to start off with what is essentially an apology. No one, from the Prime Minister downwards, from the Home Secretary downwards, no one thinks that asylum seekers in hotels is the right thing for them, for local communities, or for us. So, in some senses, if you let me do this brief introduction, then I will take as many questions as we possibly can. So no one thinks that this is the right situation. No one wants to be in this position. But what I want to do is try and lay out a few facts, and some of them may be facts that none of us like. But the reality is, however someone arrives in this country, legally or not, we have a legal duty to that person when they claim asylum. That means we have to provide them with decent but not luxurious accommodation. That's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons why hotels are not the right place for them to be. It's not in their interest, and it's not in our interest. But for people saying, and I quote, for people saying send them back, legally we can't. And you might that is simply a fact. I will get to questions, but let me finish the introduction, and I will get to questions. So, as I've said, if you'll excuse me, I'd like to try and get through the introduction, and I will answer as many questions as people have to ask. So, as I say, legally, we can't send people back. So what we have to do, what we have a legal duty under international law to do, just as Germany does, just as France does, just as always done. If a person claims asylum in this country, we have that duty to them. Now, it is the case that we have far too big a backlog of cases. It is the case that we should be exploring different kinds of accommodation. And it is the case that we should be doing more to deter people from coming in the first place. Now, all of those things are a source of immense frustration to everyone in government and to everyone on this panel as well. So I hope you understand that I am not here to defend the situation that we're in. I will try and answer as many of your questions, but I am not standing here saying that we are all in a perfect position by any means. Now, what I do want to say, though, is that the people who are in Skegness, they're in 5 hotels. There are currently about 250. There are 6. If you'll let me finish, across. With the greatest respect, I'm either here to listen to me or talk to each other. There are, according to the Home Office, 6 hotels across the constituency, 5 of them in Skegness. That houses currently 215 people. Now they are from Iraq, Afghanistan, Eritrea, Ethiopia. They are from some of the most war-torn and troubled on both sides. So that's where, therefore, we do have a legal duty, as I said, to try and do what we can for them. What we also have is a duty to try and get on with processing them as quickly as possible. That is not, in my view, happening as quickly as it should be. And we need to try and move that process on as quickly as possible so that people who do, in many cases, bring with them health needs that puts additional pressure on our already struggling.
Exactly.
And also that puts pressure on our local economy, where we know that tourism is the most important industry in this town, and it does not get helped by people seeing the kind of headlines that they have seen from this. That the Home Office is absolutely alive to that problem, but the reality is they don't at the moment have alternative accommodation. Now, what am I asking them to look at? I've asked them to look at using former military bases, for instance, as a better way of housing people. I've asked them to get on with processing those accommodation, those asylum claims so that people can move on, and I've asked them to work better with other countries around Europe to try and stop people making that journey in the first place. Now, none of those things is something that I can promise you to happen overnight, but it is something where I can promise you every political party, but particularly the Prime Minister, wants to get a grip on this. Now, I know it's small comfort because he doesn't have an instant solution. What I'm going to do now, before I come to questions from all of you, is to try and answer some of the questions that have come up in advance so that we don't end up having everyone asking the same question. So, to start, yes, as I said, the local people do face additional pressures as a result of these people coming on the local health service. They come with an additional budget that helps our local health service to cater specifically for them, but that is not, in my view, sufficient to alleviate the extra pressure. So, is there extra help for the health service? Yes. Should it be more? Yes. Another question that often gets asked is, do the police have the resources they need to cope with? We may come to Superintendent Coates from further questions. Now, we have seen that the police obviously cope with tens of thousands of people visiting over the summer. Of course, that is a different thing from the needs that might get posed by asylum seekers. What we have seen, of course, is the police attending sometimes at the hotels to try and make sure that all is as it should be. What Superintendent Coates would also tell us is that there has not been a recorded rise in crime directly associated either with the 3 hotels that have been operating for some time or with the 2 additional ones that have been stood up recently. Now, those 2 that have been stood up recently, we are told by the Home Office, are only tended to be relatively short term. Now, one of the problems, I share your skepticism. One of the problems that we have with the nature of people still coming in the kind of numbers that they have is that I can't stand here and promise you that, for instance, those short-term bookings might not become more long-term.
Well, you need to. You need to.
But I would hope you appreciate me being honest with you that I don't have the answer.
So you need to get an answer then.
And just finally, before I come to it, lots of you have also asked why is it an entirely male population comes to this. Now the short answer is that it is very, very largely men that make the journey in the small boats across the channel, and that is because for whatever reason it is men who are more able to make that journey. Closer to where people have originated from, they are very often predominantly female. So you see people fleeing their country of origin, and it is often men who make it further the women and children. Now, it is and the separate. But I'm not going to myself. I'm not going to judge people for fleeing those countries, but what I would say, what I would say finally, is also to what extent are we able, while we're processing, to what extent we are able to check for criminal records and all of that sort of stuff. That is, of course, a part of the application process. But I'm not going to pretend that we're able to do the kind of comprehensive checks that we want, and that's why some of it takes quite a long time. Now, I know that you've got lots and lots of questions. What I hope you get from what I've just said is that I am not I leave you with two things before we start. The first is, as I've said, I am not in any way seeking to defend the record that has seen people using hotels anywhere, Skegness or anywhere else. There are parts of London that have got 8,000 asylum seekers. Those big cities, if you'll let me finish, I'm actually agreeing with you. Those big cities have got the resources to cope with some of the special needs that come with asylum seekers. So that's why I've said on the North and elsewhere that I think it is important if Britain has this backlog of asylum seekers that they go where the resources are best available, and that is not, in my judgment, represented fairly by the number of people that we are seeing and the number of hotels that we are seeing used in Skegness. So as I say, I'm not defending it, but what I am trying to do is give you a sense of busting some of the myths and providing you with as many facts as I and my colleagues here on the panel possibly can. Now, with that, I'm very happy to take as many questions as you are prepared to ask. I frankly have no idea how I'm going to start choosing between many hands, but I'm going to start over there with the lady there. Get going. So I will get to everybody else. Make sure that there are not people with the kind of criminal records that you described. point. Look, I think the point we were trying to make about reassuring people about public safety is hugely important. It's why one of the first questions that I've asked Pat Superintendent Coates is, do they have the resources to cope with?
The station is 24/7. The safety of the residents of Skegness are paramount in our thoughts as police. We're confident we have the resources to be able to safeguard the residents. We're in contact with the hotels. I understand, and I understand the concerns of people. I'm not going to give numbers to police officers. What I can reassure people is we have sufficient resources to meet the demand. In the summer, we have hundreds of thousands of tourists, and we manage that demand. At this moment in time, but in the winter, it's a lot quieter. We will not see an increase in reported crime or incidents.
There has not been a recorded rise if people are convinced that there are serious issues, the only thing I would say is they have to be reported. And they will be investigated. If I
you go back to, let's have some figures and numbers. That's approximately in the police There's 1,100 police officers, the second biggest. How does it scale less out than 1,100? If you know.
What do you want to say?
So I do know that there are operational reasons why I won't give the exact numbers. What I will say is that if we have demand, we flex, so we move resources to where the demand is in the county. So even if it's not that relevant, what numbers we have to say less if we will flex.
It's not big.
If I know we're not going to get through this if everyone keeps shouting, can I please, can we all try and restrain ourselves? Now I'm going to go to the gentleman in the black jacket. Or just shout. Please sit down. I have asked.
I asked you to have a complete PA system, not no compliance. I asked you.
What am I using?
Can I say that?
Okay.
It works, amazing.
Well, one when I came to Skegness last year, and we invested in the hotel.
Gone again.
So we turned down the offer of £500 million from the government to the asylum.
Thank you. In terms of the use of hotels as effectively multiple occupations we're having to deal with now, we have asked for a test on that Other local authorities have taken it to the High Courts and have lost on the basis of it doesn't cause enough harm. Now, the issue is this is an emergency situation that the Home Office is dealing with. And I entirely sympathise with the question that you're asking, because I can understand the rationale of why you've asked it, given all that's happened. There is a protected hotel policy for hotels in Skegness in terms of planning. So it's better to have operational hotels than large numbers of HMOs.
So I join you in applauding people who are not using this desperate situation for their business model. I agree with you that it is the right thing to do for hoteliers to try and act in the best interests of Skegness than it is for them to turn this into a business model that is off the back of some very desperate people. However, in answer to your question of would you be allowed to change a hotel from a hotel to something else, there are planning policies in place that protect the number of beds in Skegness, and that's why the answer to your question would have been no. Now, we can pick up change of use stuff in your individual case separately, happy to talk about that, but the answer to the principle of your question is that no, you can't make those changes.
But until recently, this year, nobody could stay in a hotel for more than 12 weeks.
So,
hotel takes a status in May.
Yeah, and as Craig said, various councils up and down the country have challenged what is essentially a change of use in the High Court. They have lost. Now, there is a question about who can change law on that. In theory, yes, but as the law stands now, they have lost on that basis and that it's not a change of use. Now, I know it's frustrating. I share that frustration, but I'm afraid that's not true. Very happy to...
The debt's having law, having law for us, I don't know if you can tell us why. Council, not the DOA. You triple our business rates.
Okay, I've seen maybe your story online. I am very happy to pick that up individually because I talk to the OA about business rates of constituents all the time. I'm very happy to know what's happening. Okay. Right, I'm going to go to the lady sitting down in front. I'm just going to try and set up so that people can use that microphone if they want to come forward. Make a comment. So the question was about what additional resources get brought into the NHS. The short version is that there is an allocation of money that then practices, in this case Hawthorne, are able to spend on whatever they think is the best use for that patient. Now, I do want to be absolutely clear. In my view, that cash injection is not sufficient to cover the extra burden. It doesn't magic up staff from nowhere. So the answer is there is an extra financial allocation that can then be used. It's why we're able to do health checks and that sort of thing. But it doesn't cover absolutely everything. So the additional resource that comes on arrival is allocated to a GP because that's how they're and then so the answer to your question is there is the way we allocate funding to hospitals and trusts and all that across Lincolnshire in part reflects the population of Skegness as it goes up and down over the course of the year. There isn't a specific extra bit for 215 people. No, this is the answer to your question. So there is some additional resource, but as I say, I'm not pretending it's sufficient. I'm going to go over this way just because I haven't. Yes.
You said in your statement that you are pressing the Home Office to find better accommodation. I understand now airport been moved out, overcrowded, disease and deaths. Was that run by a circuit or the government? And if it was run by a circuit who is spending all this money, why did they make that suitable to keep those thousands there instead of moving them into hotels, which they've already done?
So, the answer is I don't know which of the contractors had a responsibility in Manston, but Manston is specifically intended as the short-term initial accommodation. It's not intended to substitute for hotels or anything like that. So the way the process works is when you show up and claim asylum, you are then put in a short-term processing centre, such as Manston, and then dispersed across the country or deported or whatever. So Manston has been emptied in part to prepare for any future arrivals, and because we should have that as a plan. The intention is not that Manston is ever somewhere that people stay for a period of time that's longer than a few days. So it is a fundamentally different facility. As I say, I'm happy to try and pick up additional questions, but the short answer to your question is that it is a short-term facility, and the funding for that is not directly related to the funding for hotels. I will try and pick up as many questions as we can. Look, I'm going to come to you because you're being quite disruptive, but if we can try and get on with it, please. Yeah, go on. I appreciate I'm working with you.
First of all, I sent too many emails and you never reply. Never mind. Doesn't matter.
So, okay.
My question is, didn't Theresa May sign a treaty in 2018, changed it from the 2003 treaty with the French? So she changed the treaty while she was Prime Minister, and you was part of that Minister Code. Can you tell the people she changed it? We can't send them home, and they can't send the illegals home. You voted for this.
So we when we were within the European Union, we used to, in theory, have the right to return people to other European countries. When we left the European Union, we changed that. Yes, you are absolutely right. And what we are in the process of now trying to do, and you see it with Albania, with other countries, is to do deals specifically to return people to countries of origin. Now, to be honest, those deals are going to be much more important with countries other than France, because we want people to not get to France in the first place. The point is to try and... So what we could do is we could approach the French for a bilateral treaty. You're right, but why would they agree to that? That's the core question that we've got here. Yes. So what we ask, we're not doing that. So what we do, go back, like Mark, stop renting it, ask for a drilling, to stop sending any more like we did in Blackpool, he got it stopped. Why can't we do it? So if you're asking, if you're asking me, thank you. If you're asking me to make a case that we should not have additional, no. But I would like to answer your question. If you're asking me to make a case that it is not right to put an unfair and inappropriate burden in places such as Skegness, then I am making exactly the same point as Scott Benson is making. Right, I'm going to go to the lady now.
I've got a couple of questions. I live local. I've done an online petition. I've got over 1,500 signatures. I've also done the UK Parliament March to get things done nationwide.
I've seen it.
Right? Now, put that to one side. People aren't happy because they were signed in the first place. But in the second thing is, well, you say that you're not certain how long people are staying and you can't see the future. How come then the county hotel in Skegness, if you went to book on booking.com to book a hotel with the county hotel, they're fully booked till 2024. They are not
If I say to the Home Office, how long are the 2 short-term hotels in Skegness booked for? They would say to me, we are only certain that there will be anyone in there for, and we're talking weeks stroke months, but... If you'll let me finish the sentence. But I agree with you, and I am absolutely just as sceptical as you are, that what are currently short-term arrangements may become long-term. What I have said directly to the Home Secretary and to the Immigration Minister is that, as far as I'm concerned, those short-term arrangements have to be honestly short-term. Now, I'm not pretending that I've extracted a promise from them, but they have heard it, they get it, they have seen how strong the feeling is, they have seen the YouTube video of the Town Council meeting a few weeks ago, a few days ago, they absolutely get the strength of feeling. You say I will come to you in a second.
2 things. How do you possibly know where all these, I'm going to call them immigrants, because as far as I'm concerned, I don't know if they're seeking asylum, right? So so how do you know that by the time you come to find these people to process them, they've got no passports and they've gone underground? You needn't tell me that they're all still in Skegness in 12 months' time, when they've all decided quite clearly on YouTube that they've gone to Sheffield or trying to get to Sheffield because they cannot find them.
So you are right that there is a percentage of people who do not stay where they are supposed to stay. Now, if they do that, they are running the risk of, as soon as they are found, if they are found, it is important, however, to be honest and say the vast majority of these people want to have the right to remain, the right to work, all of that. If they break those rules, then they immediately forfeit that. So the system is set up to try and stop them doing it. I'm going to let you come back, but I do want to, can we try and keep to questions and answers rather than endless back and forth, which otherwise will be over.
Yeah, but obviously you feed a reply and then we have a comment, and that's how it works.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you come back saying that, you know, if those have disappeared, I get the impression you're not really fussed about. So, because how are you going to find them? How are you going to find those people that really do not care less, that they've gone underground because they're in England anyhow, so they're not bothered? The other thing as well is health checks. We're being told that health checks are not being done, and they've come up from Kent with scabies and diphtheria. What are you doing about that to the residents that were safe with regard to our health?
So on the health checks are specifically the point of that extra funding. So there are health checks down at Manston or wherever it is, and then there are further health checks wherever they end up. So I can't promise, of course, that something doesn't emerge after someone arrives, but there are health checks done in 2 phases like that. Look, on your first point of what do we do when people abscond, if you want to put it in those terms, at that point they become just straightforward criminals. I mean, that is a different... We're already criminals! there you go. Look, you've got a microphone, I promise.
Do you want next door to me as well? According to government legislation, it says entering or attempting to enter the UK is an illegal act, and that's under section 24, number 166 of the Immigration Act. Well, if Storehouse are building a huge prison, why are they not putting them straight in there? Because they're breaking the law straight away. They're coming in this country with no passport, no identification, we don't really know who they are. If I went to France tomorrow without my passport, do you think they'd let me in?
The answer to your question is, so long as we are a member of the UN Convention on Human Rights. I will literally come to that point in a second. So long. Yes,
Give her the microphone.
So the offences that you are describing are overridden if someone claims asylum. Can I just at least try and finish my sentence in response to your question? That is why there is an argument, and it's a strong argument that says we should, it's called derogate from that convention that would allow us to say, if you arrive illegally, you forfeit your right to claim asylum. That is a legitimate, sensible argument, but it is not the legal position at the moment.
None of these have got they're actually discarding birth certificates, passports, everything before they get here. So they are illegal. And we can actually put them in prison, according to government legislation.
I absolutely hear the point that you're making.
But Seneca are building this massive big prison. Who's that for?
I think you are connected to the issue. But you are right to say that it is a criminal offence. But, as I say, under that convention, if they claim asylum, we have different duties to them. You are making a powerful case to leave that convention, but I'm afraid it is wishful thinking to say that under the current law they are simply criminals. Right.
I hear
the point that you make. Right. Can we get to the? Look, I'm sorry, but can we go to the gentleman in the orange jacket? We will come back to you. Everyone will get a go. Can we go to the gentleman in the orange jacket?
Right. Of the first 3 hotels that taken over, how many were housed? You've got to have them figures.
Do you mean how many people have moved on?
No, originally, how many were housed in those hotels, the first 3 hotels?
The answer is... sorry, I'm doing some maths. 128.
So how many of those were processed within the first 3 months? What percentage?
A very small number.
That's a very small number, is the number. What percentage?
Sorry, look, the answer to your question is I do not know the precise number, I know it is a very small number. I think we're making the same point.
So what we would like then is everybody who's put their emails, you to find out those details, an exact number, a percentage, and how long within the first 3 months.
So look, I'm happy to do that, but there is an overarching answer, which it is far too slow, right? That fundamentally, that number, if that number is not 100%, it's too low. If it's taking 3 months, it's too slow. All of those things are points to failure.
Because you actually, let's say that you stated in your little speech at the start about Manston and all that are being processed before they're left there.
No, so there's an initial processing phase, and then they are dispersed.
What's that? You just give them
while they're... that's when the initial health checks, initial criminal checks, and then they are dispersed while their applications take
just a little bit.
I'm going to let you finish and then we're going to move on.
Obviously, once they're processed, if they're given the council property, why should they override who people who've been on the council wait list. So, once the personal process, assuming their application is accepted, then their needs are assessed in exactly the same way that anyone else's is. So, if for instance they are at risk of homelessness, they are assessed in exactly the same way as a Skegness local person. Just to answer that question, there is people talk about homeless people in Skegness as there is no need for a person to be homeless in Skegness. They will get all of the attention and all of the resources of the local is that if you have a specific case of a specific individual, I will do everything I can to get that person sorted out. But I will come to you, you don't need to wait. Let's not claim that there is a kind of prioritisation when in fact there is not. Lady in the purple, please. Sorry.
Right, we all know that we're living in cuckoo land because we all know they're not going to be moved out of Skegness. They're all going to stay. We all know that fact. But what are you going to do as a council to help Skegness when all our businesses go bust and there's nothing left? Cancel their vacations already because of this situation.
The point that I have made to the Immigration Minister, to the Home Secretary, is that this isn't just about pressure on public services right now, it's about the risk of long-term economic damage because of all of the concerns that we've just talked about and more. And one of the further worries is that I'm not sure that every person who has let out a hotel to the Home Office is in it for, once those people have left, is in it for long term. They're not going to look after those hotels the way that we would want it. So there are real risks that this does long-term economic damage.
But you're still putting our council taxes up, still putting our bills up. I've paid my national insurance all my life, but I can't get into a dentist. I asked for a dentist appointment. You know when I got one? November next year. They're getting serious straight away because I got pushed out.
This is exactly the pressure on public services that we believe why it is not always fair to put people in communities where there is huge pressure on dentists, as we all know, huge pressure on local GPs, as we all know. Now, as I say, that's why it's important. It's important that there are two things that are important. One is that the resources come with any additional pressures. The other is that in the medium term, we move people out of hotels and into more appropriate accommodation. And that's why it's good that the government is in the medium term looking at older basis assessment. And I wish I could stand here and give you a date for all of them, but I hope you appreciate my honesty in saying that I can't. Okay? Right. I'm going to go to look. If I just say I'm trying not to reward people who are most aggressive in trying to obstruct me. I'm going to go to the very patient lady in blue. You'll just wait for my phone, sorry.
What I want to know basically is a very old thing that keeps happening in this country. I come from Bradford, and in Bradford, in the 60s, there was an overrun population of another country, not Albania, but they come for different reasons as well. Now, most of that population becomes segregated. There's 5 countries in Bradford, to be honest. Chinese, Afghanistan, you know what I mean. What I want to know is, that was in the 60s. They're still there to this day, trying to build, but they're not building. They were brilliant with the buses, I'll admit it. But that's not beside the point. But what is going to happen with all these Albanians that are coming here? Are they going to making Skegness and surrounding districts a little Albania? Like a lot of people have said in Bradford, Bradford is now a little Pakistan.
So I think I'd say 2 things about it. The first is that all the people that are in they are from Iran, Iraq, Syria, they're not primarily from Albania. But what I would say is Albania, to me, is not a country where you should be able to come and claim asylum in the way that you might from Iran or Iraq or Syria or something. And that's why I, for instance, along with David Davis and another MD, have supported this idea that you could summarily reject claims from countries such as Albania on the basis that it's not plausible. Now, I very much like the government to take that up. I'll be working with other members of Parliament to try and get the government to take that up, because I think it's important that we are hospitable to people with genuine claims, but if there are places where it's just not plausible, we should be quite straightforward and say, actually, that is not going to happen in the UK. So I hope that provides some reassurance that in the case of places like Albania, which do frankly also market themselves as a holiday destination in the UK, that is not somewhere where we should automatically be providing people with asylum claims. Now, I'm going to go to the gentleman who's got... I'm going to go to the gentleman at the back with his hand up there. Can we try and do it properly, please? I will do
Right, just one question. Not long ago you mentioned that you're willing to help the homeless. Me and my missus have been homeless for 8 months. We've been back in Skegness for 7 weeks. And the council will not help us because they're saying they've got no spaces, and the homeless team are saying they cannot put us in a hotel because they've got no spaces. Can you explain that?
So Steph, who works with me, deals with some of the homelessness cases that we deal with. We will do everything we can to help. Okay. I'm going to go to the lady in the pub. If I can please appeal to you.
That's no lady.
Just try and wait your turn. We'll try and get through. Absolutely.
Right, first of all, I'd like to say I found your remark extremely patronising about punishing those that are aggressive. We're passionate, not aggressive. You say you have a legal and moral duty to home these people. What about the legal and moral duty to home the thousands of homeless people in this country? If you can find money to put illegals in hotels, why can't you find hotels and homes for our homeless? They're ridiculous. Some of them fought for this country. Disgusting.
We have an absolute moral duty to try and eradicate every kind of homelessness in this country. That is why we have invested in building hostels, in building sheltered accommodation, in all of that sort of stuff. And it is also, by the way, why we prioritise former military veterans. in that hierarchy. Now, I'm not pretending. I'm not pretending that there is not more to do, but the idea, we're not disagreeing with this. There is absolutely the duty to do everything we can for every single person that is in that position. And look, Craig can talk to you about the huge amounts of money that East London District Council spend on homelessness. Yeah. I absolutely agree with you that that kind of disparity is utterly indefensible, and the way that we are, if you are underlining the point of why hotels, particularly hotels in Skegness, but hotels full stop, are the wrong place for all sorts of reasons. That's why the Home Office wants to try and stop using them, and we can't do it soon enough. So the answer to where do you want to put them is we want to put them in, for instance, better kinds of reused military bases, that sort of thing. I'm going to come to the lady with...
Good evening, and thanks for your time tonight, all of you people. My question is to the councillor. Now that these hotels are under licence as HMOs, are all the certificates for the electrical, the fire safeties, the plumbing and the gas and everything all up to date with the council? The answer to your question is yes. It's taken some... Right. Effectively, when these hotels are known to us, the various agencies that need to go in to check health and safety, food safety, fire safety. It's not just East London District Council that deals with that, it's county council colleagues in the fire brigade. They are checked. Some of them have had compliance issues, it's taken a bit of time to get into the right place, and they are, as far as I'm aware, all done as they should be. And that's something that we're very keen to make sure that they do accommodate in a safe place. So the answer is yes. Thank you.
I'm aware that lots of people have talked about how quickly some of this stuff has been done compared to other places. There is no one who wants to see anyone being able to get away with not having the right kind of certificates or that, not least because it invalidates their insurance and all that sort of stuff. So you're raising the right issues. If I give you one example, another hotel in the constituency, then it used to be delayed because it didn't have the right food safety. I'm going to try, I'm going to go to the lady with the short hair who I said I was going to get a minute ago, and be careful how you describe them.
I don't know about anybody else, but I'm getting a bit fed up with people kind of like going back on themselves and saying things that are not right, and we all know they're not right. You're supposed to represent our community, your RMP, and I'm not really seeing much of that. As far as the police go, I don't really think that we do have enough resources. There's a lot of comment on social media, and there's a lot of untruths being told, saying that there's not been incidents reported, when we all know that there has been incidents reported. There was incidents reported about the immigrants going down and taking photographs of the children playing football, and that had been reported to the police, and you can deny that it's been reported or wrong, but it has been reported. There was an incident of a lady who had her mobile phone stolen. That was reported to the police. The lady, it was an old lady, and she activated her Find My Phone device, and it was pointed to one of the hotels. And thank you, the Sun Hotel. And the police, she told the police where it was, And the police apparently turned around to her and went, well, you better off just forgetting about it. Now that is wrong. That is disgraceful. The police refused to go into the hotel and retrieve that phone, even though they knew where it was. Now there's also been footage of the security, so-called security guards who are fronting these hotels. Now, I mean, I don't know what their security background is. I don't think anybody knows what their security background is. But when they are security on them hotels, do they have the proper badges? Do they have the proper SIA badges? And also, if they're on duty on their hotels, why are they not showing their SIA badges? That is wrong. If anybody is doing security when they are on duty, they have to have that badge on show 24/7. And if somebody asks to see that, they have to show that. They cannot hide it. And also, if you're our MP, we're paying your wages. In the Houses of Commons or wherever you sit, and you have to stand up there and you have to say, I am sorry, but the people in my constituency are not happy with this, and they will change. You have a right, I haven't finished, you have a right to go back and not happy about the hotels being used. It needs to be changed. That lady there pointed out all the policies, and she read to you that these people coming in illegally, right? If they are coming illegally, then they are committing an act of criminality. You can't change the rules just because it suits you. You can't. You can't change the rules just because it suits you because you're in government. No, that's not how it works. We pay your wages. We pay everybody's wages. We pay our taxes. We pay the police's wages. We pay the mayor's wages. It's time, it's time you stop and you listen to our voices. You are our MPs. And if we're not happy with something, we bring that to you, and we expect you to work for us, and we expect you to sort it out. Also, there is a care home that is allegedly going to have their residents moved out to house these. No, that stops. That stops. That is not on. You do not move out elderly people with dementia to house asylum seekers. That is not going to happen. Not on our watch. Not on our
You have asked me to represent the feeling in this room to the Home Secretary, to the Immigration Minister, to Parliament. The leaflets that you've got in your hands, they show me making that point as powerfully as I can to the Home Secretary, to the Immigration Minister, to Parliament. I will absolutely represent the views of everyone in this room because I can see, we can all see how strongly we all feel about it. And that is why you've got that proof of me representing what you are saying. Now, what I hope is also important, though, is when I say to Suella Braverman, we should not be putting more people in these sorts of hotels. When I say that to, when I say that to Robert Jenner, when I say that to the most senior members of the government, it would not be honest of me to stand here and say I can make promises that I can't keep. And I think it is important I am honest with you. I will absolutely continue to keep banging the drum in Parliament, whether it's about what happens with Albania, whether it's about what's going on with the Home Secretary, whether it's about what's going on with the immigration policy. I will keep doing that, and I will keep doing it until we get the change we want to see. But what I can't do, and what I don't think it would be right for me to do, is to stand here and pretend that I can deliver overnight solutions. Because I want to be honest with you, and I want to bang that drum as hard as I possibly can. Right, do you want to answer the question about the police? Sorry,
Sorry, obviously there's quite a number of questions there, so I apologise if I missed some first off. So just in terms of resources, I said before, I'm confident we have the resources for the issues that we face. And if we need more, we have the ability to bring more resources in, but we don't, just to make it clear. We are not seeing a rise in incidents or crime. In terms of the mobile phone and the sun-in, I am not aware of an instance of that nature. I am not saying it's acceptable. If that is true, that the police said we're not going to the hotel, well that's not acceptable. What I will do is take that away and look and see if that is the case and look into that. But I don't have an answer here now. So I'll come to the police station when it comes to resources, but in terms of the photos of children, we have not had incidents reported to us about that. If we do have instances like that, what I would say, if you see that happening, report it to us. We do need to know. And then the final question about the police station, is it open now? The police station is staffed now. It's staffed 24/7. That's a custody suite that's 24/7, 365 days a year. The police operate out of it, and it's staffed. In terms of the inquiry office, if you went, yes, like every station in the country, it has opening hours, but it is a staffed 24/7, 365 day a year station that is also in a 24/7, 365 day custody suite, just to reassure you. I said I will take away the some hotel and mobile phones, have a look, and I am not saying if that was the case that is acceptable. It's clearly we should have investigated it, we should have gone in the hotel.
I just want to address the issue of care home as well. We've all I think seen that story on various bits of social media. The council have talked to the owner of that care home and have been told categorically that he has not been asked by the Home Office to take residents, and I haven't had the notification that I would usually have from the Home Office saying that he has been asked to do that I can only tell you what I have been told, which is that he is saying that it's not going to be used. I'm going to go to people who haven't asked questions already. Absolutely. And look, I've been really clear that it is not acceptable for the Home Office to say one thing and then change their mind a few weeks later, as they did about one hotel. Now, but I'm going to go to the lady in the floral top over there after I beat the guy who I said I'd go to ages ago, and I'm sorry, I've just missed it. I'm sorry.
Now then, I'd like to know this, and I want the truth if you could tell me. Can you tell us how much the government is paying to the hotels in Skegness to house asylum seekers, and why is it some asylum seekers now, I've heard, are buying knives? Nobody knows about it.
I mean, on your second point, it's just as illegal for anyone to carry an offensive weapon in the way that you might describe whatever nationality they are. Look, we're currently, as a country, spending £7 million a day on hotels. Now, a proportion of that is going to Skegness. If I'm honest, I can't do the precise facts in my head, but you are talking about hundreds of thousands of pounds in a way that is fundamentally not acceptable. And I am not, as I hope you've got said, I am not defending it in any sense. It is the wrong thing for the taxpayer, it is the wrong thing for the asylum seekers themselves, it's the wrong thing for us. So it is money that should be being spent differently, and it should be being spent better, and I'm not defending it. Okay, I'm going to go to the lady who I've said I'm going to go to 5 times already.
council are taking legal action to stop all this happening in Wisbech. Are you going to step up?
So the question of councils taking legal action.
Yeah, to stop this moving in, yeah.
So every council that has tried to do that has lost.
Well, they're not giving up.
Well, so
and at least they're trying.
And what we need is a test case. You don't need to do every single council doesn't need to run the same thing.
Why not? If you all do it, if you all join together.
The effect you're asking for, you wouldn't get 100 times the effect in 100 councils did it. It's about demonstrating the point. What the point that Fenland and others are trying to demonstrate is that hotels that are taken over this way become houses of multiple occupation, and they become an interchange.
No, Fenland don't want them in the first place.
But they're trying to use that legal route to make the point.
So why don't you?
So there's no value in two.
Why not? Why is there no value? Everybody wants them out. Why are you keeping them in?
I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything to try and keep people in. What I'm saying to you is that one council taking a case to court.
Yeah.
That case is not made stronger by.
Well, it is if everyone joins in, isn't it?
I'm sorry. I'm not trying to defend the position.
Right.
I'm trying to explain what is the case for. Every time a council has tried to make the point that you are.
But have you tried?
Our point would not be different to their point. It is the same point.
But they're not going to give up.
Well, I mean, I don't want to prejudge any one court case, but every previous court case has been thrown out or has been defeated.
But they're still trying.
I understand the point you're making, but their persistence does not guarantee their victory.
Okay. One more question.
Go on.
Do any councillors have financial interest in any of the hotels? This would be a conflict of interest, as it would be in their financial interest to keep it occupied and full.
I can assure you that no local councillors have any hotels in Skegness.
The point you're making, you're absolutely right, it would be a conflict of interest. Clearly you're right, it would be completely unacceptable, it would be an absolute conflict of interest. I agree with you, that would be the same up and down. I'm going to go to the lady who looks like in red. Behind you.
Two questions. Do we carers who do evenings, nights, do we have protection? Walking there and back in the dark. And another thing, do they have curfew?
So, first of all, like I've said before, is that I do understand people's fears. What I can reassure people is we haven't had any incidents and no evidence that you are unsafe. We have police officers, we patrol, and we actively patrol the streets of Skegness. We do police Skegness 24/7. So, if anyone has any concerns, then please report them to us and we will respond. In terms of curfews, they don't have curfews. There's no curfews.
The answer to why not is in the eyes of the law they are not subject to prisoner status. So
I'd like to thank you all for coming to answer our questions. Are you aware that Hawthorne Medical Practice was rated as inadequate in September, and yet you're saying they're getting more money that's supposed to help the situation that's been wrong for a very long time now? So how are you going to address that for the citizens?
So the point that I made one of the points I made to the immigration minister was, look, you've got two medical practices, Hawthorne, which as we say is inadequate, Beacon, which has had its own significant challenges recently as well. It underlines, I'm slightly soft-spoken that, one of the many reasons why you should be careful about where you put asylum seekers is because you are loading additional pressures on places that have often been struggling already. So that is exactly the sort of point that I have been trying to use to the immigration minister, to the Home Secretary, to say you've got to think about more than is there a vacancy in a certain area. Right, keep putting your hands up. I'm going to go to the lady in pink because you're fairly close by. If you have
in this area to support our public services. Could I just ask a question? Normally, when there's a crisis in the country, we deploy our military. We have an RAMC. There are qualified medical people there that could come in to prop up our services that are really cracking at the seams. Would that be a possibility? Because that's something that the government could do, which would certainly help a lot of people here. We already have to sustain huge pressures in the summer with our holidaymakers, many of whom are not registered as local because they're here for all but 6 weeks of the year, which doesn't make them recorded really as established people here. So we were already on our knees, and this problem is just making things much worse. And I would just like you to ask whoever you have to, if we can actually use some of those people with the expertise who can provide the services that we very much need.
No, thank you. And you're right. We compound the problems that we have already stretched out. Over the last year or so, we have seen the Army helping out with ULHT, a hospital trust. It is always an option, but it is also always a last resort. It is a difficult balance. You make a reasonable point. For instance, I know that in other parts of the country that they've also considered similar things. There is not influence by army doctors or whatever it might be, but needs must sometimes, and I think no one will ever rule that as being exactly. Gentleman vision.
From day one when anybody, most of these robots today, if not the time, from day one when they go, they're all given identification, whether it be a birth certificate, health number, whatever it is, we've got a driving license, we're all, in some way or another, being able to be recorded in court and took before wherever we need to be. So now you're telling us that there's thousands of people coming across the channel, whether they're ditching the paperwork they've got, they're left with nothing to prove who they are, where they're from, or whatever they've done. Now, at the end of the day, right from day one, when the first one of these set foot on the beach in this country, there should have been started to do the legal, as you keep telling me. From day one, while was the DNA photographed and fingerprinted, for the purpose of we've already been management and stuff like that. And if for some reason there's something in it that keeps up on these people, you've got no way of tracing them. They hit the beaches in boats, they all do a bombast and run wherever they want to. But the ones that are being kept should be recorded in some way or another. We're talking about what I just said. DNA photographs, fingerprints. You've got no way of recording them or even recovering them. Because like the old saying says, one looks just like the other one. At the end of the day, this should never have happened in the first place. I know this for a reason, because the first thing we do in this country, and we're talking about the police, is your DNA photography, and you've got nothing at all of these people that's running around in the thousands, not just one, all over the country.
In these cases, a lot of people do throw away their ID because they're incentivized to be to some extent. As soon as they arrive, exactly the sort of processing that you described is part of what happens at Manston and part of what happens elsewhere, because it's really important that once someone has made an asylum claim, it's really important that we know who they are and we're able to track it so that we're able to either process them and accept it or reform something. So that you're asking for something which to some extent happens already and is also, of course, hugely important, because otherwise we can lose track of it even when we granted their asylum claim, and that would not be a good idea. I'm going to try and go down this way a bit to either, and then I'm going to go this way. I'm going to try after a while to give people a sense of who's next. So after this lady, we're going to go to the gentleman in the black jacket there, and then the man in the cap who's just going to come back. Good.
Hi, I'm going to regress a little bit here. You said earlier on that you are looking to put them into military bases. My question is, what happens after they've been there? How long are they going to be there? They're not going to spend their whole life there. When we are desperate for our own country and young people who can't get on the housing ladders, they're struggling like mad. What are you going to do with all these thousands of immigrants, or migrants, whatever you want to say, what are you going to do with them further down the line?
Great question. Once the application has been processed, then if it fails, then they are returned to whichever country it might be. You're right, it's a less process. If that asylum application fails, then they are obviously, then we've obviously had to, in that process, identify who they are in order to reject the claim and say, no, actually, for instance, we don't accept it in face threat. If it succeeds, that is the point at which that person earns the right to work and the right to leave that camp or whatever it might be, and then join the workforce in a way that any other legal people right. So you're right, they then do also put pressure on the housing system, pressure on elsewhere, but not in a way that is different from anyone else. I'm going to go to yes.
Have the Nightingale hospitals been considered about looking after these immigrants that are coming in? Because here we are in Skegness, we've got all these hotels, that's part of our economy, you know. The government is shouting out like mad that we're trying to bring up the economy, etc. But the Home Office is taking it away by putting in the illegals into the our hotels.
Look, I'd say, just to reiterate, the thing in some ways that concerns me most is that risk of long-term economic damage to Skegness, because tourism is the most important issue here. To answer the question directly on the Nightingale hospitals, what the immigration minister said to me is that they are considering as many options as they possibly can, and he highlighted, for instance, former military bases as his first choice. He didn't mention Nightingale hospitals specifically, but in a series of all options are open, I would assume that they would at least look at any of those. Gentleman at the back, grey and white, and then the gentleman. All right, you've done it the other way. Sorry.
First of all, I'd like to say thanks for turning up, Matt. You're a braver man than me. My first question is, right, there's an old saying in my book, prevention is better than cure. What preventative measures have we got? How many are going to take into this country before we say enough's enough? When you're going to be home and you're packing up, you put so much in a box and the arseholes out of it. Am I right? How many are you going to take before the arseholes out of it? My second question is for the superintendent. How many of your staff are lone working? You say your staff 24 hours a day. How many are lone working?
I'm going to let Pat do the second question.
So, just in terms of, there's some operations, some that I won't go into, but lone working, well, because some of it's sensitive, but what I will say is that when we need to send multiple officers for an incident, we risk sending every incident, and if we need to send multiple officers, we will do. We have multiple officers on duty at any one point, at any one time, and we have multiple officers on duty at any one time in Skegness. So, we send the number of resources that are required for the incident that we are attending at the time, just to be clear.
Well, we've got two very fine officers on the back of the room. Just to answer your, you're not going to get a straight answer on here's the number of people low working. The point is that on the preventive stuff, we have over many years done various deals with the French. This latest deal that Storehouse has signed with her French counterpart is the first time that there are British officers in control rooms in France, and we do have really good intelligence on where people are and when they are about to make those crossings. So I'm not she does not pretend it is a silver bullet by any means, but it is another important step on the road we need to keep doing more and more of. Just on your first one, exactly. We've got to keep doing more. And look, you thank you for showing up. This, as far as I'm concerned, it is my job to show up to things like this, but it is my job more than that to represent your views back in Parliament, and that is why I'm here tonight. The gentleman, I've been trying to get a man in a black coat with a cream jumper under for the last 6 years, and then we will go to
There's no reported incidents in the town. Can you tell me how many police cars have been to those 4 hotels? How many ambulances have been to them 4 hotels in the last 4 weeks? Because they're there daily, nearly hourly.
So, first of all,
I live right by. I see them. Some of my friends over there see them. They don't say there's no reported incidents.
So first of all, I can't answer around ambulance because that's obviously different services themselves. In terms of incidents at the hotel, we do attend the hotel, so I've not said we don't. What I was answering is incidents in the public environment. We go to hotels regularly also to maintain engagement with them. So as much as you may find it difficult, we have a responsibility for the asylum seekers' safety, which is your safety. And obviously part of that is engaging with them to understand what is happening in the community. So we do attend the hotels. I'm not saying we don't attend the hotels. What I'm saying is we haven't had reported incidents involving the people that are resident in the hotel and the public environments. And that is very different, just to be clear.
Yeah, I want to try and keep it sweet if I can, but straight to the point. Firstly, if you can answer this. You say you've had chats with the Immigration Minister and the Home Secretary, and what I can't understand is, if you've made it quite sincere that we disagree with what they're doing to us, and they're at the top of the food chain, firstly I'd like to think that you would bang on the table, tell them it's got to end, not a bit of pattering around with it and having pal shots in the garden, tell them straight. And from where they stand, they are at the top, so they should be shouting. So they should be saying, no more, stop, simple as that. But from another side of it, we hear that there is earmarked hotels and inquiries to local hotels that none of us know about, and probably not even you. But I would like some assurance as of from now, this moment, or within as soon as you can possibly give, me, as well as every single person in this room, that anything that's earmarked will not be filled, any more inquiries to anything within this area will not be inquired about and stopped. So what we have here now stops as immediate effect. Not tomorrow, not the day after. And if you are able to answer them questions, we would like times and dates. Finally, what we do have here, yourself, as well as everybody else, has made it quite clear. We can't accommodate them. So I would like to know, even if you have to publicly announce it, exactly when they're going to be gone. And I'd like a public date of how soon you can remove them from our area to allow us to install our town to exactly what it is, and that's a family seaside resort so we can improve the next year. Anything you can do with any questions tonight, every single person here I'm sure will be keen to really answer, but if not, I'd like as soon as we possibly can publicly to answer those main questions, because that resolves every other question in this room once you've answered them questions. Thank you.
Straight answer to that question wouldn't carry the meeting. And the reality is, when there were questions about one of the hotels that is now in use coming into use, I tried to get assurances from the Home Office. I was told it's not, there are no plans to use it. A few months later, it's now being used as a temporary hotel for asylum seekers. So I want to deliver on the questions that you've asked, but I'm also not going to make promises that I can't keep. So what I can tell you, if you want me to make promises I can't keep, then that's a separate question. What I can promise you is two things. The first is that I have made clear to the Home Secretary, to the Immigration Minister, that in the very strongest possible terms, exactly why all the points you've laid out are the right ones. Why we need a plan and a timeline and all that. It's why, for instance, I've been as strong as I possibly can about saying that hotels that are supposedly temporary at the moment have to stay temporary. All of that sort of stuff. And as soon as I can give you any kind of timeline, of course I will. But we all know that the questions you're asking are the right ones, and we all know that part of the reason we're all in this predicament is because there are no straight answers to those questions right now. I want to get them to you as quickly as I possibly can. So the answer to that is I do not know. I will do everything I possibly can to make sure it does not happen. And there is no one who can make any great promise to that. It needs to stop. Right, I'm going to go through the haven't asked questions already.
Just like to say, earlier a lady pointed out that if you arrive in this country without any passports or anything, you're illegal. And your response was, if they claim asylum, that outrules that altogether. So why can't you get that ruling changed ASAP? Because you're quick enough changing these hotels to HMOs. So it needs to be sorted ASAP. So we've got this problem.
Yeah, what you're asking us to do is to remove ourselves from the UN Convention on Human Rights. It is a respectable legal argument. Even if it were on the table right this second in Parliament, it would take quite an amount of time. What the Home Secretary is trying to do is sort of that might be a long-term possibility in some people's minds, whatever. What we've got to do is tackle the problem that we face right now as well. And so I hear what you're saying, but I don't want to wait for the sort of long-term big solution and ignore the rest of it as well. So we've got to, if you wanted to do that, you'd also want to tackle the problem we face right now as well.
Why are we acting as taxpayers all the time when we should be spending that money on our services?
I completely agree with you. I don't want to be spending money, I don't want to be spending taxpayers' money in hotels, neither does the Home Secretary, neither does the Prime Minister. We've got to work to fix it, but what I'm trying to say to you is I don't have an immediate solution that I can present to you right now, and that's why they're looking at, for instance, former military bases, that sort of stuff. I'm not saying it, saying a problem. I hope that honestly is a contribution. So,
just two questions. The first one is concerning minority occupants. Is it not true that you actually voted with the government to change the rules, so therefore you are part of the problem?
No. I heard that accusation at the town council meeting the other week. It is simply not true.
Well, thank you. That's a public record. I'm only told what I've been told.
Absolutely, it is deeply regrettable that some town council resisted it.
Well, thank you. That's the first one. The second one is that with the amount of money that this is costing, doesn't someone up in government realise you're breaking the bank, or is that a deliberate policy?
So this ultimately
No, it doesn't come from the economy budget. It comes out of our resources, of this country. It's not the case. It comes out of the worth of this country, and we are breaking it. I'm told, I may be wrong again, it's costing £153,000 a year for one migrant to be housed in this country. Is that sort of the right ballpark figure?
No, not really. But
would you give me a figure then?
Yeah, well, to be honest, it varies depending on whether they're an adult, whether they're a child, or they're a child. I'm not disagreeing with you. There are some extraordinarily high figures that the taxpayer has to pay, and that is not an acceptable situation.
Right, thank you.
I didn't say that. Right, we'll go to this lady in the front here, and then we'll go to the gentleman in the
Hello, I'm an ex-hotelier. I moved back here because of the asylum system in Margate, Kent. I had a hotel next to the Nail and Rock, which were full of asylum seekers. I had a white British woman. I have not prejudice against anybody. I know all of these people have a story. And what happened, I had a lady that was married to an Arab who beat her up, and she came to me with 3 children. And she said, we have got nowhere to go, and she had no money. I didn't mind, I came to that few days. I went to the Nail and Rock Hotel and said, I have got a British woman here on Social Security, and she needs accommodation. She's in danger of whatever. And they said, sorry, this hotel is only for asylum seekers. A British woman that the taxpayers would be paying for. My hotel, it died. The whole of Margate died. The death that all these hoteliers are worried about. And I was one of them. I even went to the newspaper. We got a quarter of the price of our hotel was worth. And it was ranked a very good hotel. We were busy, my husband and I. Loved our jobs. The migrants were prostituting in Cliftonville. They were thieving and stealing. and they ruined my died a death. And I've come back here to Skegness where I lived before because my husband was a Lincolnshire man and my children. And I come back here and I can see the very same thing, in all honesty, happening.
I think you make two really powerful points, right? The first is that this is an issue that has come to some parts of the country, such as Margate, before it came to parts like Skegness. And you can see, as a result of that, what the risks are in the way that you've described it. Exactly. And that's why I keep coming back to one of the top priorities has to be making sure that there isn't long-term economic damage as a result of hotels being used in the way that you describe, and it's something that we have to use as one of the many reasons to take to the Home Secretary, to take to the Immigration Minister. That is what I will keep doing, and I know that they of course they get it, of course they can see what's going on, but as you described from places like Margate, there are huge pressures. Yeah, exactly.
London, where I came from, took over it. I had a tavern, shops, busloads, British people coming to it, and the whole of Margate, even the fair, died. And everybody else tried to sell their businesses. And this is why I'm speaking tonight, because the same thing is going to happen to all the hotels.
And we've heard, in Parliament, we've heard really powerful stories like that of what happens when this stuff persists. And I think it's really important that we have those sorts of stories because it makes it that much more real. Gentlemen in the shirts at the back.
Yeah, okay.
Wait for the microphone.
All 5 of these hotels have been subject to a change of use. I would like to know, obviously they've been subject to a change of use because they're now permanent occupation. I want to know what planning processes were followed to actually change the use from a hotel to permanent residence.
So in the eyes of the law, as tested in court repeatedly, while, look, I agree with you, I clearly, it seems to me that they are not operating in the way that conventional hotels do. But, in the eyes of the law, challenged in court repeatedly, courts have found that they disagree with you and me.
You need to actually go onto Google, Mr. Warman, and actually have a look, because there's several cases, Ipswich, there's several in London, that I read yesterday, that were successful in their claims, because they were just wanting to go and you make a change without doing anything, as if it was okay to do it without planning.
So to give you one example, that Ipswich as a court case failed. Sorry, I'm distracted. So the example you use of Ipswich Council taking it to the court, that case failed. That is why it's really challenging to say if we at East Lindsey, if we in Boston, whichever council it were to be, there's a real risk that they try and take a case to court and it costs hundreds of thousands of pounds more taxpayers' money and they lose. Now, I don't disagree with you, but the courts have disagreed with us and that is problematic.
What is the point of having 3 set, for example, hotels, completely different planning legislation?
Look, as I say, and you put me in the difficult position where I'm disagreeing with the court, right? But it is the case that various councils have taken those cases pursuing the point that you're making, and they have lost. Now you may be arguing, you might reasonably argue for a change in the law as a result, but again, the law as it stands is as it stands. I'm just looking for people who... Can you put your hand up if you haven't asked a question? You haven't asked questions. Go. And I will get to people who have already asked questions. I might even give you an update on the England score if there is one. Sorry, I won't give you an update.
On from down south, Thames Valley area. Now, down there, Gerrard's Cross, Beaconsfield, Maidenhead, Amersham, Chesham, Denham. You haven't got them down there. They send them down here because you people who's in Parliament think we're a load of bloody idiots.
I absolutely promise you I do not. But what I would say is the most immigrants and most asylum seekers are in the big cities. They're in London, they're in Manchester, they're in Birmingham, they're in the places where in the first place people saw that there were the resources to give them what was needed. So when people have come to Margate, Skegness, Yarmouth, all of those places that have had these problems, it's because the Home Office has become more and more needy of places to put them. So it is not, I know sometimes it feels like, as you said, that it really is the product of a system creaking at the seams that we've got further and further away from the best places.
All I told you about all the rich people, where the rich people and all the people who work in government live.
So one part of your question.
I'm telling you that it's no good making excuses that the government can't do this, can't do that. They can if they want to. You're numbers more friends.
Two parts of the question. You are right that the government has not gone, or the Home Office and Serco or whoever, they haven't gone to the most expensive hotels in the country first. They have tried to get value for money for the taxpayer. Now, that is, on one level, a good thing. On a local level, it brings real challenges to it. And look, you talk more generally about we could change the law if we wanted to. You're absolutely right. I'm not disagreeing with you. That's why I haven't been trying to defend the situation that we're in. But what I'm trying to say to people is that if you want to leave the UNHCR, or if you want to change the law with Albania, or whatever it is, at least one of those things I'm definitely in favour of. But we can't do it overnight. We have to tackle the situation that we find ourselves in here, as well as doing those things about speeding up processing, deterring people from coming over, exploring former military bases, all that sort of stuff. I'm trying to step. Do you want to get to the lady in the jumper just there, sits on near with the microphone?
Hello. I'm a hotelier. I've been here for 5 years with my husband, and there's problems in every town and everything. But at the end of the day, there was a lady earlier saying that she's got a friend that's got gets counselling on her. We have, and all we want basically is reassurance, because if we've got all these asylum seekers, people are not going to come down. So. I want reassurance. We all want reassurance, obviously, is what we're hearing. Yeah, my point was to come to in the respect that, why we need to promote Skegness. The council need to promote Skegness to say that it is safe, because that's most of our text messages, is to say, is it okay, what's happening? And we're sort of like, well, the other meeting just was way off the scale, and that was absolutely ridiculous. But we're all here to show that we care, and we want financial help, we want support, and that's really what we do want and need. And you can fob us off, everybody can if you want to, and a lot of people haven't turned up tonight because they think, what's the point? Nothing's going to be done, and that's why a lot of people have left. I have to be quite as well as football, obviously, but time to do it. But anyway.
No, thank you. And I think what I'm trying to do in all of these answers is strike a balance between giving you the honest situation as it stands at the moment. I think it's really important that I don't make promises that I can't keep. It would be really easy to stand up and say, I've been told that there will be no more hotels in Skegness ever again used for this purpose. But I think it would be worse to stand here and make that promise knowing that I can't guarantee it will be true for the foreseeable future. So I think that honesty is really important. Just on your main point though, yes, you're absolutely right. We have got to do everything we can to try and tackle the risk of that negative perception. You've seen it in other parts of the country, Margate, Yarmouth, those seaside resorts that have got similar opportunities opportunities and challenges that we've got. And it's really, really important that there is the economic support if it is necessary in due course. And Craig, I don't know if you want to say anything about that.
I think the point's been made a number of times, and I think you've made it very carefully about the economic potential of harm. In all the process, in terms of as a council, East London District Council, working with our county council colleagues, the first indication of having these hotels, the first three, we had days of notice. The immediate issue and concern for us was obviously the impact on services, the NHS, dentistry, all the wellbeing things that we have to deal with an ageing population, and also recognising that we have some of the most deprived areas in the UK. The key thing as well is the damage potential to our tourism economy. Skegness and the coast, and Skegness hovers between number 4 and 5 in terms of popularity as a visitor centre. It has a great offer, it's a great family destination. In all my communications with the Ministerial and Home Secretary, which have all been covered with Matt, the key thing is about the damage that this potentially does to our tourism economy. That is forefront in our concerns. Obviously, the concerns that you've raised tonight are important, but that long-term damage to the tourism economy, because we do great stuff along the coast. We've just had serious money invested in the Towns Fund, which projects are going to be delivered in Skegness and along the coast. We don't want to see that potential damage. We want to see our young people in jobs over a long period of time, full season jobs. These are all aspirations that we have, but we do not want to see it undermined by the long-term use of these hotels. And in all of the communications that I've had, I've raised the point about we need assurance that this is a short-term policy that will quickly return Skegness to its former glory in terms of an attractive destination to lots of visitors. So that has been a consistent message from the council and from the Skegness Town Council, and in terms of the work that we have with all the authorities, that has been through that a consistent message. So it's important to say we're trying to deal with this as all bodies, Town Council, County Council, and through our MP, Matt Warman, and also Victoria Atkins for the other constituencies. So that's a really important message. Thank you.
I'd just like to say one thing. No guests, no resort.
Yeah, exactly. Right, I was going to go to Lady in Blue, you seem to... Okay, that's fine. And then, I'm going to do you two, then the gentleman right at the back who may just have to shout, and then the lady in brown at the back. Go.
Can I just ask one question? It's just a simple question. You've got your panel there. Why is no representative from the Home Office here?
I invited a representative from the Home Office and they weren't able to come.
Can we have a reason for that?
I think a big chunk of it is the short notice. But look, I'm not defending them not coming by any means. What I would say, what I don't care about. What I would say is that, you may have seen it, you may not. I asked the Immigration Minister in Parliament on the floor of the House, what is his message to this meeting? So you have a message direct from the very top of the Home Office, and I accept that they are not here tonight, and I wish they were. But I agree with you. I completely agree with you. So I hate to say they probably wouldn't have done, but I take your point. Lady Blue.
I did get told that you're going to put some of them in caravans. Is that true?
So no is the answer, but you may have seen one of the reports in the media was that they would consider that where they talked about disused army bases and that sort of thing, they've also considered disused places like Pontins was mentioned, for instance. The principle of any of this stuff is making sure that, as the Home Office put it, it is decent but not luxurious accommodation. That's why they want to get out of hotels.
Well, if that's the case then, I've been living in Skegness for 16 years. I live in a caravan and I have come out for 8 weeks, right? I have to pay over £1,000. So can't I stop in my caravan now then? With you having all these?
Actually, that is the exact point that I raised with the Immigration Minister the other week, to say, look, if you've got lots of caravans are very often in areas where there's flood risk, that's something not just here but around the country, what would you do about exactly the situation that you described? The only thing he said to me was that he acknowledged that it was an issue. I don't have an answer for you, but obviously that kind of tension or contradiction or whatever you want to call it would be really unfair on someone in your position.
Yeah, but the same flood risks, they had the flood risk in 1958.
Yeah, and look, we could, there's a whole separate public meeting about flood risk and caravan sites, but
we're 2 foot off the ground.
Exactly, I don't disagree with you, but I think the point is that whatever the rules are, they have to be the same for you as they are for everyone else. It's not fair to put someone else in a better position than you are.
Yeah, but I'm paying poll tax like everybody else. I'm paying the same amount of poll tax as somebody else.
Yeah, look, I completely agree with you. It wouldn't be fair, but it's not a situation that has yet arisen. Okay, I'm going to go to the gentleman in the t-shirt at the back. Could you just shout for us because there's no room in that microphone to you?
Sure, no problems. According to LBC yesterday, the Home Office, which has the largest percentage of stay-at-home workers for government departments, they send home, they process 4 asylum seekers a day. How on earth can you say all these people will only be temporary when they process 4 a day? That's the first question. Second question, do you know, if you don't get this sorted, you're getting a P45 and you're out?
On your first question, the average now is per Home Office worker, they process 1.5 applications per day. Sorry, per week. What they're aiming for to eat into the backlog is to get up to 4 to 6. All of that, it just needs to be faster, it needs better resourcing, all of that. The Home Office agrees with you, I agree with you. It is a huge challenge and it is simply not good enough that they're in that mess. On your second point, look, I'm not standing here because of whatever happens at the next election. I'm standing here because it's the right thing to be representing what people think to the Home Secretary, to the Immigration Minister. But I absolutely get how much people care about this, and I get that I'm the lightning rod for some of this stuff. I'm not here defending it, I'm here trying to provide you with the explanations that you deserve. I'm going to go to the lady there. If I said a different order a minute ago, I apologise, but I'm going to go to the lady there.
That's no lady.
I just want to know how you want to protect our children. That's all they hang around our schools, they're taking photos of them. We just have, like, people outside the schools keeping an eye on making sure our children are safe. That's what really concerns me.
So, what I can say is we have not had reports of them taking photographs outside schools. What I would say, if you see that, then please report it. We do have contact with the schools. The schools are they have a strong responsibility for safeguarding with the head teachers. If they see that, I am confident they would report it to us. What I would say, we haven't had reports. If that happens, please report it to us and we will respond to it. And as I said, we have close contact with the schools, and the schools themselves haven't reported that to us either. And I'm confident they would, because they have a very strong safeguarding responsibility and we have very close links with them.
There's videos of them all over social media holding their phones up there as children at school.
I think we're all hearing that on the one hand, if there are reports, they're not getting as far as the police. Please, my only thing I would say is, if you see this, if you hear about it, even if you just see it on social media, the police need to know, because this is really important stuff.
I believe the police
We haven't got the resources. What's the point of bringing the police? We get told we haven't got the resources, here's the crime number. That's what
I want to reassure you, we have the resources. We obviously, the way we do it with the instances, we grade them and we respond to them accordingly. We have the resources. My plea is like I reinforce, if there are people taking, photographs of children and you're concerned, please report them to us. We will take them seriously. We will look into them. But we haven't had those reports. at the moment, we haven't had those reports to us, and we have very close contacts with the schools, but we do have the resources, just to reassure you.
And if I can look, for heaven's sake, don't say this is something really, really important, but it's not so important I can't even be bothered to get a crime number. You have to report this stuff if it's important, and it is what allows the police to allocate resources to where it is needed. Okay? So I hear what you're saying. I understand the frustration. We've all had it in different forms of the public sector, but please, there is never an excuse for seeing the kind of behaviour that you're describing and not reporting it. So that would be my plea, is please do that. Sorry, feel free to come back.
Can I just ask, can we have our streetlights back on? Yeah. I don't get streetlights, it's scary out there.
So there are two things. The government has specifically got some funding in place for where there are streetlights that have been turned off, where people report feeling unsafe and trying to turn them back on. It is based on risk rather than solely the perception of risk, but I absolutely hear you. It is something that we've all got, that the councils have got to consider, and Skegness relies on a reputation for safety and all that, so I absolutely hear you. Right, I'm going to go to I'm looking at people that haven't said it. I'm going to go to the lady in black there, and then the gentleman in the green. Sorry, the microphone's getting to you. Sorry.
Can I just say, I've got teenage daughters. They go out in the evening, but they're too scared to now because they feel intimidated. They're getting comments made to them, stared at because they're all standing in their groups. But if they report it to the police, you say it's not a crime. They're not doing anything wrong. Would you let your teenage daughters go out? And when it's too late, when one of our girls have been hurt, then what are you going to say?
So I just want to be clear, I am not saying it's acceptable. That is not acceptable. I do have teenage daughters, or a teenage daughter, and the youngest is below teenage. So I understand what you're saying. That is not acceptable behaviour. Report it. If we know about it, we can deal with it. If we don't know about it, we can't. There is also the opportunity through an application called Street Safe, which you can report incidents if you feel unsafe in an area. We use that data as the police, and where we talk about funding for street lighting, that's the sort of information we use to then inform and work with the local authorities to look at what we can do to make areas feel safer. So it's very much on our agenda about how young women feel intimidated in public places. It's very much at the front of our agenda. We have an action plan on that, so we do take it seriously. But please, look at the Street Safe application, and you can report where you feel unsafe, and then we get that data and we work with the local authorities and other partners to see where we can improve people's feeling of safety. So look at that, report it to us.
Two things. One, you're describing antisocial behaviour that should be reported wherever it takes place. No one's defending that. There is no excuse for it, or all of that stuff. And you should be reporting it, whatever the nationality of the person doing it. There's a separate tagging argument where there is a good case for it in some ways. On your broader point, yes, they are given a small amount that is supposed to cover toiletries, that sort of stuff. It is not, in any sense, intended to provide them with that kind of luxury, and that's not coming from the taxpayer. I get it. I'm going to go to the man in the blue jumper, and then the lady. I know, but just let me try it. We'll come back to it.
particularly, it's just on the last point that you were talking on. Apparently, they get £8 a week. That doesn't even buy them a packet of cigarettes. So I'm taking it that they have got savings. You know, what happens when the savings are gone? You know, £8 a week. They can't live on £8 a week.
So bear in mind that large numbers of these people have paid very significant amounts of money to people traffickers to get here in the first place. So in many cases, the £8 a week is not separate lady there. The £8 a week is not the only resource that they've got. And you're right that there is a challenge over what happens if they become destitute, because then they become a further challenge for the state. Lady in there, go on. Absolutely. I'm very much a sort of well-enrolled kind of approach. I think you should respect the values of the country that you come to, and that is not that's certainly not compatible with the kind of behaviour that you've just described, right? Now, I hear you about what happens if you report it. Some of this behaviour is not going to attract the kind of attention that perhaps we'd like it to. But I would come back to what Pat said, is if you use things like Street Safe, if you keep up that pressure, it will make a difference. I know it's not a panacea, I'm not pretending it's a silver bullet.
Why don't you then just stay down the crew one Saturday night and come in and watch it for yourself? Then you have a bit of evidence and you say,
So what we don't want to conflict two issues here. So it isn't acceptable that you feel that way when you're in a pub or a licensed premise or anywhere else. But that is separate to the asylum seeker issue, because it's not the asylum seekers we're talking about being in pubs, I think it's fair to say. So that behaviour, full stop, is unacceptable. There was a lot of discussion nationally around the violence against women and girls agendas and action plan, and one of the big pieces of work that the police have is around safe spaces and making it safe, that you feel safe as a woman and girl to go out and go about your business. That is an active piece of work that is national, plus in Lincolnshire Police we are focusing on. Just to make it clear, what I would encourage you to do, if you do feel unsafe, report on Street Safe. If you don't feel you can report it to the police. We are working very closely with licensees as well to make their venues safer. There's schemes such as the Ask Andrew scheme that licensees participate, that's national as well if you feel unsafe. So we are working closely, and there's more work to do around safe spaces, and that's very much on the national and local agenda. But you should feel safe to go in any public space regardless.
I'm going to try and get to the few people that haven't already asked questions. So if you want to come forward, and then we'll go to the gentleman in the blue jacket, and then to the red jacket, and then the striped top, and then the lady at the back. Please try and remember that order, because I will.
Right, having seen the feeling tonight in Skegness from the residents of a wide spectrum of age groups, are you now going to go back and tell the Home Secretary exactly the feeling in the town? Because this feeling will only grow. It's not going to go away. We all feel strongly for the town, and we all, rely on the tourist trade. And if we lose that, we lose the town. Can you assure us that you're going to take this back, and are you going to post it so that people can see that it's been done?
Look, absolutely. As I said a minute ago, you have got a picture on that leaflet of me already making exactly that point to the Home Secretary, to the Immigration Minister. I'm really glad that so many people came tonight and said, huge show of feeling. I get it, of course. But frankly, we all saw that show of feeling at the town council meeting last week. How people feel is really blooming obvious, right? And so I didn't need to have this meeting to go and tell the Home Secretary how people feel. I've already done that. I will keep doing it. I get it. There is what I'm not going to do is, as I said, make promises that I can't keep that pretends I can guarantee that the situation will improve over time.
Okay, fair enough.
Right, who did I say next? The gentleman in the...
Hiya, just a quick one. My missus works in a bar in town. She sometimes doesn't finish till, I don't know, 6 in the morning on Saturday or Sunday morning. She's petrified to walk home. I have to go and meet her and even take the car. What do you say to her to make her feel safe when these people are roaming around town just doing nothing?
So I say it's not acceptable. It's absolutely not acceptable. No one should not feel safe in anywhere in this country, but in Skegness in particular. Now, what I would say is it is important to bear in mind that if there are instances that you want to report, if there are feelings of not feeling safe, then Street Safe is exactly for that. It's what allows the police to allocate resources, all of that stuff. But I'm not defending that position. No one should feel like that walking home, whatever time of night it is.
For many times, for years, she's walked home and she's never felt like this. As soon as these people, she's seen them and she's felt intimidated by them. And to be fair with you, I'm not going to lie, sometimes I feel intimidated by them. I see them there in the big groups. And Christ, she's doing it as well.
Well, I understand the fear. I do understand the fear and the fear that's held. But what I want to say is that we have nothing to suggest that there is any greater risk to your partner at all. We've had no incidents that would suggest that. If she feels unsafe, like I said, there's methods to report it. And I don't want anyone to feel unsafe. I want everyone to feel safe that walks down the street. My job is to try and make people feel safe. So I am hearing it, but I just want to try and reassure people there's nothing to suggest that they're any less safe now than what they were in the summer when we had thousands of tourists, nightclubs very busy, pubs very busy. There's nothing suggesting they're any less safe now than when that was the case, and there's nothing suggesting they're any less safe than we were this time last year. I just want to reassure people around that.
And perhaps making an important point about the perception of fear and crime itself, but they are both really important issues. Gentleman in the red jacket.
Right, getting on to what these young girls say and that, they don't feel safe. Now, I went to get some money out of the bank. I mean, you might not say that's no, but I have to get the money out of the bank, it's all paid in the bank. So I went in there and we go and do the lottery in the bookies. As we did that, these three were stood there and I had to warn a gentleman and a man was there. And I had to warn him because they were watching us taking money out of the bank. I mean, he can stand up there, you can all stand up there. Yeah, we're all safe. Yeah, right. If I don't feel safe, and I've looked after myself for years, but I'm getting old now. So I'm like this chap here. Whoa, you get about 6 or 7 of them while you're getting money out of the bank. Who's safe? Come on, there's no one there. You've got cameras up, and all we say is, oh, it's got to be reported. Now, if there was a car racing down the thing, you'd get a number. Oh, we've got him. Because he hasn't got a number on, oh dear, we don't know who they are. And I'm not being racist at it. If I were in their boat, I would be here as well. Because in their own town, in their own cities, and this is what people don't realise, in their own town, where they come from, they're on £4 a week. They come over here, they get a free hotel and everything. They're all coming across with top of the trainers, you name it, I don't know what, designer clothes and phones, and you're telling us they've got nothing. What are they escaping from?
Just to be clear, I'm not telling you that all of these people have nothing. I've just, as I said to someone else, many of them have paid many thousands of pounds to people traffickers to get here. What I did say is that they are very often fleeing countries that neither you nor I would want to stick around, given that they are genuinely famines or war-torn or whatever. That's a different point, but I accept what you're saying more broadly. I'd say two things, and maybe Pat would want to come back as well. Look, the fact is, since we have had the 3 hotels that have been well established and the 2 extras, there have been, of course, people who have felt less safe. There hasn't been, as Pat said, that increase in instances of, for instance, people having problems with cash points, that sort of stuff. But I come back to report it. Like, we're only going to get the resources in the right place if we don't do that. Pat, do you want to add?
I mean, I think I've sort of repeated. I understand why you might be fearful, but I just want to reinforce, we haven't had reports of crime or incidents where asylum seekers or residents of hotels have attacked people at cash points and taken money. We haven't had those. So the risk is no greater than what it was before, just because the hotels are housing these residents. The risk hasn't increased. We obviously monitor that all the time. I will take away the earlier incident was mentioned around the hotel and the phone to have a look at what happened there, but we haven't had those reports. So I just want to reassure people that that's not what we're experiencing. And the risk at the moment, we have nothing to suggest the risk is any greater than what it was previously, but I do understand why people may raise people's fears.
Lady in the front.
Right, firstly, I am from Skegness originally, spent 38 years in Leeds. I'm well aware what mass immigration does to a place. It's horrendous, absolutely. And you say, we're under no threat now. You wait till you get another 300 or 400 here and see the difference in this place. Nobody wants to come here, believe me, but we're not Margate, we're Skegness, and we will fight it, but that isn't what I wanted to say. I want to ask you a question. How many of the hotels in, say, Berkshire or Surrey, you know, the really nice, posh, affluent areas where you can't buy a house under £1 million, how many of their hotels are full of them? Because I know Linton-on-Ouse, I brought this up at the council meeting, nobody shot me down. Linton-on-Ouse has 650 residents. 650 residents. They weren't going to house them in there, but for some reason, don't know why, could it be because the average house price for a detached house is £965,000? It got sidelined. So how many of your nice Tory MPs have houses in the really affluent areas, have hotels full of them?
The short answer to your question is the government is trying to use as affordable a hotel as it possibly can, and more expensive.
So don't they have hotels in Surrey?
And hotels in the southeast are, as we all know, per night, very often significantly more expensive than some.
Oh, so we're a dumping ground. We are a dumping ground. We are going to turn into Hull or Bradford, and I've lived there as well. Not a pleasant place, trust me. So we are going to turn into a dumping ground unless, no, you're not going to get away with it, unless the people of Skegness actually stand up and say enough is enough, and it won't be your job that goes first, it'll be the local councillors, because they're not putting enough pressure on you, and you're definitely not putting enough pressure on the bloody government.
As I've said repeatedly, I am not for 1 second.
Well, you don't sound like it. I'm really sorry, but I've sat here all bloody night, and all you've done is been a nodding dog. I'm really on your side.
I don't want to contradict you, but I have stood here and repeatedly said the policy that the government is delivering is not working for the people that live here. I've told you that I've said that to the Home Secretary.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's have somebody like Adrian come with you and let him tell them. Or better still, let me come with you as well, because I'll bloody well tell them.
I think that the idea is, if you'd be more convinced if I was shouting and swearing...
I'm not shouting and swearing. I'm passionate about my own town, and I do not want to see it turn into another Hare Hills or Chapeltown in Leeds, where the police will not go. And if they do go, it's in a Mariah, and they won't get out of it.
So if I can just say gently, if you're telling me that I have not made the case to the Home Secretary as strongly as I could.
Well, not like we were stood there listening to you.
Or that if I haven't made the case to the Immigration Minister, I'm sorry that you're wrong. I could not be clearer with these people at the top of government that
so why are we getting more?
Acceptable. And the reason we're getting more is because we've got an immigration system that is creaking at the seams and is using places like Skegness to try and correct it.
They're using places like Skegness as dumping grounds. They're not putting it in Surrey and Berkshire and all the nice posh areas.
If your argument is that we should go to £500 a night hotels and the taxpayer should bear that, then it's all our money, right? That taxpayer's money is all our money. I understand that
it's not in our back garden.
We have to fix the system.
Listen, it's not in our back garden. How can 650 residents of Linton on Ouse stop an RAF camp that hasn't been used for 15 years, but we cannot stop the residents?
So look, when it comes to the specific former military bases, as I've said, the government is looking at those to use them as quickly as possible. But I agree with you. If it were down to me, I would have built one in Linton on Ouse and it would already be up and running. But I can only apologise for not being the Home Secretary. I think we should obviously be using that sort of accommodation, and we should have done it already. But I do keep coming back to this point. I will keep banging the table as hard as I possibly can, whether it's with the Home Secretary, whether it's with the Immigration Minister, whatever it is. I'm not standing here saying that this is an acceptable situation, and I'm telling you I will do absolutely everything that anybody could be doing about it right at the top of government.
So my question kind of follows on with that. I'm only going by Facebook and social media, but I hear 2 in a room, £240 a night. I don't know whether that's true or whether you'll admit that. Right, I've just had a look at a hotel in Skegness for 1 week, £550. So why? And these hotels that we're talking about a year ago were not shitholes. They are now. You walk past them and they are disgusting. People's already mentioned about the fact that the windows are open, they're steamed up, it's too hot. They're having heating on, whether it's 24 hours or 12 hours. I've worked from home today. I cannot afford to pay £20 a day to heat. Right? I'm on a good wage. I'm not going to say any of that, but I'm not going to pay £20 a day and watch them let the heating go out the window. And are they getting breakfast? Are they getting lunch? Are they getting dinner? Well,
as I said, I am not defending this system for a second. What I'm saying is simply that you're making a case time and time again of why we have to stop using hotels altogether, because it's not the appropriate kind of accommodation that we should use.
Why pay them 240? I've done my figures. The hotels have come up sale for £1 million in Skeg. They've all been bought. They have not been able to sell these hotels. They've all been bought. If you get a mortgage on them and you get all these people coming in, they're laughing all the way to
Absolutely. And this crisis has created a business model for irresponsible hotel owners to turn their premises into a cash cow on the backs of some of the most vulnerable people on the planet. That is not acceptable, and I'm not suggesting that it should be. But what you're doing, as you say, you're underlining the reason why we have to get to a position where we don't have to use hotels at all, because then we will break that business model. It is, yeah. Well, so I suppose, to add on to that, the reason they're having to pay so much is because that's what it was taking to convince hoteliers to do it. What they've now done in the process is create this horrible business model that encourages people to buy the hotel. It is not acceptable. As I said, I keep coming back to this point. I'm trying to provide you with explanations, but I'm not defending it.
But isn't it Serica that is actually our control of this? And aren't we paid to Serica?
Yes, Serco is paid by the government. They are a contractor. They are making some of the basic decisions on which hotels to use, but fundamentally, fundamentally what Serco is doing is trying to find accommodation at any expense. So,
surely a lot of the problems stem from the policies, the economic policies of the last 12 years with austerity, because we've had 37% cut to local government funding, 30% cut to police funding since 2010. A lot of the people in here have been angry about the lack of services that they have had, and that's a direct result of government policy of austerity, which has now just been voted through again by yourself and many others, to have more austerity, which is a failed economic policy, and I speak that as an economic graduate. Yet we still have those problems of the basic issues of the lack of services that people have around this area, that they can't get to see doctors, they can't get to see dentists, they can't, those services are run down, and that's as a result of the economic policies of your government. And then we get these people come in, many of them very, very deserving, and they're taking months to get processed, because of the lack of resources that your government are putting into the process. Process them quickly, let them work, problem solved.
Two things there. I absolutely agree that we should be processing them faster. What I also say, though, ultimately, is I'm very happy to have a conversation about austerity or about economics. Am I right in thinking, right, you have not asked the question, so we're going to get to you, and then we will get to you, I promise. I think so it's you, then the lady in the grey top, then the lady with the marvelous dog, and that may... Oh no, there's one lady at the back as well. Okay.
Hi, we've had 40,000 people illegal immigrants come across the channel. One of your MPs on television yesterday made a great point. He said when they get to Dover, give them a cup of tea and a sandwich and turn them around and send them back. Over and above that, Australia had a similar problem. And what did they do? They turned their people back and the problem was solved instantly. In Italy, they had a huge, great boatload of illegal immigrants coming to there, and the country refused to let the boat dock. In Sweden, there's all hell being let loose up there because of the immigration problem, but they are taking action. I've heard a lot of talk today, but there doesn't seem to be any action at all. But what I'm saying is if Australia can do it, Italy can do it, Sweden can do it, then we should be able to do it.
So to give you an example, Sweden that is adopting the blanket approach with Albania, that, as I've said, that this country is also exploring. I'm afraid, as I said at the beginning, the idea of turning votes back in the same way that the Australians have tried, in the judgment of UK courts for a start, would not be legal, and ultimately the risk is that France would not accept people back. We would be, in your scenario, not accepting them either. The risk is that you simply have large numbers of people drowning in the channel, and I don't think any of us want to see that either. So I think we've got to be really careful about pursuing solutions that actually don't have unintended consequences as well. I'm going to go to, if you are still trying to speak, put your hands up because there aren't that many of them. So let's just go round to, when we go to the man in blue, and then the lady at the back, and then the lady in grey, and finally the marvelous one.
Can we stop